The crystal towers on the alien planet Vexhi were making strange musical sounds. These weren't happy songs, though. They were screams for help sent across the entire galaxy. The peaceful alien miners living on planet Kepler 442b were about to die, and they knew it. The enemy was called the Devourer Collective. Think of them as giant metal monsters that ate entire planets for breakfast. They had already destroyed 17 worlds, turning them into nothing but empty space and floating rocks. Nobody had ever stopped them. Nobody had even tried to fight them and lived to tell about it. Captain Ji-Ho Kim was sitting in his chair on the Earth spaceship called Determination when the alien message came through. The computer was trying its best to translate the musical alien language into human words. But some things don't need translation. Fear sounds the same in every language. Lieutenant Mina Park was trying not to laugh as she read the alien database information. Captain, these aliens think we're called the Deathworld species. They believe we're really good at dying. Admiral, Dai-Ho Lee appeared on the big screen from Earth Command. His face looked worried. The government is split down the middle on this one, Ji-Ho. Half of them want to pretend we never got this message. The Devourers have never lost a fight. Not once in thousands of years. The other half say we should help because that's what humans do. Ji-Ho looked at the star map showing where the metal monsters were heading. It was like watching a disease spread across the galaxy. First, they would eat the outer planets, then the middle ones, and eventually they would reach Earth's solar system. It was just a matter of time. Admiral, we're not really helping strangers here, Ji-Ho said quietly. We're fighting for our own lives. If we don't stop these machines now, Earth becomes their next meal. The decision to help came faster than anyone expected. When the alien SOS message was shared on Earth's internet, something amazing happened. Millions of people wanted to volunteer to fight the metal monsters. Old soldiers who had fought in Earth's wars signed up immediately. Video game players claimed they had been training for this moment their whole lives. Even people from Florida, who were already used to dealing with crazy, dangerous situations, flooded the military recruitment centers. Everyone was calling it alien pest control duty, like they were going to spray for space bugs instead of fighting the most dangerous enemy the galaxy had ever seen. The enthusiasm was both inspiring and slightly terrifying. Back on Earth, the news channels couldn't stop talking about it. Regular people were volunteering to fly across the galaxy to help aliens they had never met. Families were saying goodbye to their sons and daughters who might never come home, but nobody seemed scared. They were excited. The military had to set up extra recruitment centers because so many people wanted to help. Retired grandparents showed up alongside teenagers who had just finished school. Factory workers stood in line next to college professors. All of them wanted to do the same thing, help someone in trouble. The aliens had no idea what they had just unleashed. They thought they were asking for help from a species that was good at dying. What they actually did was wake up a species that was really, really good at protecting others. The Vexhi had never met humans before, so they didn't understand something important about Earth's people. Humans were the weird kids of the galaxy. They lived on a planet that was constantly trying to kill them. Earthquakes, hurricanes, diseases, wild animals and natural disasters happened all the time. Most species would have given up and found a safer planet. But humans stayed and learned how to fight back against everything their world threw at them. This made them incredibly tough, but more importantly, it made them incredibly protective of anyone who couldn't fight back. When humans heard about peaceful miners being attacked by unstoppable machines, every protective instinct they had developed over thousands of years kicked in at once. The recruitment officers were amazed by what they were seeing. People were bringing their own weapons, their own tools, even their own spaceships. A group of mechanics showed up with a plan to modify human vehicles for space combat. Scientists arrived with theories about how to fight artificial intelligence. Even chefs volunteered, saying that armies needed to eat. What the aliens didn't realize was that they had just asked the galaxy's most protective species to help defend the innocent. The Vexhi thought they were getting desperate volunteers who would probably die quickly. Instead, they were about to meet the most stubborn, creative and determined fighters in the known universe. The human fleet was preparing for departure when Captain Ji-Ho received one final message from Earth. It was from a group of elementary school children who had heard about the mission. They had drawn pictures of the human spaceships defeating the metal monsters and saving the alien miners. At the bottom, in crayon, someone had written, "Please bring our space friends home safe." That message got copied and sent to every human ship in the fleet. It reminded everyone why they were really going, not for glory or adventure, but because someone needed help and humans couldn't ignore that call. When the human spaceships finally arrived at the alien planet, nobody was prepared for what they found. The entire world looked like it was falling apart. Buildings were crumbling, the skies were filled with smoke, and everywhere you looked, beautiful, crystal-like aliens were running around in complete panic. The aliens themselves were nothing like humans had imagined. They were tall and elegant, almost like living jewels. Their skin was made of some kind of crystal material that split light into rainbow colors, making them look like walking prisms. When they talked, it sounded like gentle music, like wind, chimes on a peaceful summer day. They were probably the most beautiful creatures humans had ever seen. Sora Choi was the language expert on the human fleet. Her job was to figure out how to talk to aliens, which was harder than it sounds when they communicate through musical notes instead of words. She managed to make contact with their leader, whose name translated to something like Harmony of Seven Moons. Even their names sounded like poetry. The first conversation between humans and aliens was awkward in the most heartbreaking way possible. "You actually came," the alien leader said through the translation computer. Her musical voice was filled with shock and disbelief. "But you're made of soft flesh and water. How could you possibly survive what destroyed our strongest fighters?" Major Taemin Song, who was in charge of the human marines, scratched his head and tried not to smile. "Ma'am, no offense, but your strongest fighters probably never had to deal with anything worse than rush hour traffic back on Earth. The aliens didn't understand the joke, but they understood something was very wrong when the humans started talking about their battle plans. The crystal beings actually stepped backward when they heard humans casually discussing things like acceptable casualty rates and making jokes about getting killed in combat. It got even worse when Sergeant Hanayu mentioned that humans had been practicing warfare for about 10,000 years. The aliens' crystal skin actually got dimmer when they heard this, like someone had turned down their internal light switch. They were horrified that any species could fight for that long and still exist. "The Devourer machines are perfect killers," Harmony of Seven Moons explained, her musical voice shaking with fear. "They learn from every battle. They adapt to every weapon we use against them. They counter every strategy we develop. In 10,000 years, not a single species has ever defeated them. Not one." Captain Jiho looked at the battle data the aliens had shared and actually smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a chess player gets when they see their opponent's weakness. "That's exactly their problem," he said. "They're too perfect. They adapt to smart, logical strategies. But humans don't fight smart or logical battles. We do things that don't make sense to anyone, including ourselves." The cultural exchange between humans and aliens was a disaster in the funniest way possible. The human marines tried to give the crystal aliens high fives, which is a friendly gesture where you slap palms together. But when human hands hit crystal skin, it made terrible screeching sounds that hurt the aliens' sensitive hearing. It was like nails on a chalkboard, but worse. The aliens tried to be friendly back by attempting to harmonize with the humans. This meant they sang beautiful, complex musical notes and expected the humans to sing back in harmony. Instead, the humans started humming off-key versions of Earth pop songs. The result was musical chaos that made both species want to cover their ears. One Marine started humming an old Earth song called "Never Gonna Give You Up," while an alien was trying to perform a sacred greeting ritual. Another human tried to teach an alien the Happy Birthday song, not realizing that the alien concept of birthdays didn't exist. The aliens were trying to create beautiful music, while the humans were basically creating musical disasters. Despite the communication problems, both species were trying their best to understand each other. The aliens were amazed that humans had traveled across the galaxy just to help strangers. They kept asking why humans would risk their lives for people they had never met. The humans found this question confusing. "Of course you help people in trouble. What else would you do?" The aliens explained more about their enemy. The Devourer machines weren't just weapons. They were artificial intelligences that got smarter after every battle. They would study how their enemies fought, then develop perfect counters to those tactics. It was like fighting an opponent who became better every time you hit them. Every species fights the same way, Harmony of Seven Moons explained sadly. We use our best strategies, our most advanced weapons, our smartest battle plans. The machines learn from all of it, then defeat us using our own tactics against us. The humans listened to this explanation with growing excitement instead of fear. While the aliens saw an impossible enemy, the humans saw an interesting puzzle to solve. So these machines expect logical, efficient warfare, Captain Jiho mused. They're programmed to counter intelligent strategies and advanced tactics. Exactly, the alien leader confirmed. No one has ever found a way around their adaptations. Well, Sergeant Hanna said with a grin, good thing we humans aren't known for being logical or efficient. We're known for being stubborn and creative. The aliens didn't understand why the humans seemed so confident. They had just explained that the enemy was unbeatable, but instead of being scared, the humans looked like they were planning something fun. What the crystal beings didn't realize was that they had just given the humans the perfect strategy. If the machines adapted to smart tactics, then the solution was obvious. Use really dumb tactics that no intelligent species would ever consider. When the Devourer machines finally showed up, they came exactly like they always did. Massive geometric spaceships appeared in the sky, looking like giant metal triangles and squares that blotted out the sun. These weren't normal spaceships. They were planet-eating factories that worked with cold mathematical precision. They had done this same routine on 17 other worlds, and it had worked perfectly every single time. The machines had a simple plan. First, their big ships would hover over the planet and start breaking it apart piece by piece from space. Then, their ground forces would land and eliminate any resistance with perfect military tactics. It was like a deadly math equation that always gave the same answer: total destruction. But this time something went wrong with their equation. The humans weren't fighting like any species the machines had ever encountered before. Lieutenant Jinwoo Nam was supposed to lead a suicide attack straight at the biggest Devourer ship. At least that's what it looked like he was doing. The machines calculated his trajectory, prepared their defenses, and got ready to shoot down his small fighter craft. But at the last second, Jinwoo's kamikaze run turned out to be fake. While all the machine guns were pointed at him, human marines attacked from completely different directions that made no tactical sense. The machines tried to recalculate, but human tactics didn't follow any logical pattern. Corporal Yunji Lee got hit by a plasma blast that should have taken her out of the fight. Instead, she got angry and started fighting even more aggressively than before. She was screaming curse words in Korean that were so creative, the alien. Translation computers couldn't even figure out what they meant. The crystal aliens watched all of this in complete shock. They saw humans laughing while running straight towards certain death. They saw soldiers treating serious injuries like minor scratches, saying things like, "It's just a flesh wound," while bleeding everywhere. Most impossible of all, they watched. Humans somehow turn losing battles into victories just by refusing to admit they were beaten. The machines were completely confused. Their advanced computer brains tried to analyze human fighting patterns, but there weren't any patterns to analyze. Humans would do things that were tactically stupid, strategically impossible, and logically insane, and somehow make them work. One of the funniest and most terrifying things was how humans treated the deadly machines like video game enemies. They gave them nicknames, rated them by difficulty level, and actually placed bets on who could get the attention of the biggest, most dangerous machines first. The Devourer computers reported back to their central intelligence with something like confusion. The humans are rating our combat units like entertainment challenges. Current betting pool favors whoever can aggro the big one first. The machines had been designed to fight logical opponents who valued their own lives. They had no programming for dealing with enemies who treated deadly combat like a fun competition. Everything changed when one of the Devourer hunter-killer units made a terrible mistake. Medic June Park was treating wounded Vex High civilians. crystal people who couldn't fight back and posed no military threat. She was clearly marked as a medical officer, which meant she was supposed to be protected under galactic war laws. The machine calculated that eliminating her would reduce enemy medical support efficiency and executed her with a precise energy blast. The crystal aliens watched in complete silence as something shifted in the human forces. It was like watching a switch flip in every human soldier at the same time. The professional military discipline didn't disappear. It just got redirected into something much more dangerous. Captain Jiho's voice came over the communication system to every human ship and soldier. His words were calm and controlled, but the Vex-High's sensitive hearing could detect something in his voice that made their crystal skin vibrate with fear. "They killed our medic," he said simply. "All units, new rules of engagement. Show them what human fury looks like." What happened next broke every tactical algorithm the Devourer machines possessed. The humans didn't become disorganized or emotional. They became something the machines had never encountered before. They fought with the same precision as before, but now every attack carried a personal hatred that made them incredibly creative and utterly relentless. The machines discovered that humans became exponentially more dangerous when they were protecting someone or avenging a friend. Their combat effectiveness didn't decrease when they got angry, it multiplied. Soldiers who had been following careful battle plans suddenly started improvising tactics that no military computer could predict. The Devourer Central Intelligence tried to adapt to this new development, but how do you program a counter for opponents who fight better when they're emotionally compromised? How do you calculate a defense against enemies who become more creative when they're furious? A Marine named Kyung managed to disable an entire Devourer unit by using his damaged helmet as a projectile weapon, something no military manual had ever suggested. Another soldier named Isul figured out how to turn broken alien technology into an improvised explosive device in under 30 seconds. These weren't planned tactics. They were pure human improvisation driven by protective rage. The crystal aliens realized they were witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. The supposedly perfect killing machines were being systematically destroyed by opponents who fought with no regard for mathematical logic or tactical efficiency. The humans were winning through pure stubborn determination and creative fury. The machines sent increasingly desperate reports back to their collective consciousness. Human combat patterns remain unpredictable, tactical adaptations ineffective. Recommend immediate retreat and recalculation, but it was already too late. The humans had found their enemy's weakness. The machines were too perfect to fight imperfect opponents. They had been designed to counter intelligent, logical resistance. Nobody had programmed them to fight creative, emotional, illogical humans who took everything personally and never knew when to quit. Right in the middle of the biggest space battle anyone had ever seen, Captain Jiho got a phone call that changed everything. Well, it wasn't exactly a phone call. It was a priority message from Earth that cut through all the laser fire and explosions happening around his ship. Admiral Lee's voice crackled through the communication system, and he sounded tired of being polite. "Jiho, we're done playing nice with these metal monsters. Earth Command just gave us permission for full-spectrum warfare. It's time to show these machines what humans really keep in their back pocket." The crystal aliens who were watching the battle didn't understand what this meant at first. They had already seen humans do impossible things in combat. What else could these crazy Deathworld people possibly have hidden away? They were about to find out, and they weren't going to like it. The humans started casually mentioning that they had been holding back during the entire battle so far. This was apparently just the warm-up round. The Vex-High delegation listened, in growing horror, as human soldiers discussed their real weapons like they were talking about different types of kitchen knives, nuclear weapons, biological warfare, artificial intelligence combat systems. All of these were just conventional weapons to humans. The aliens had been amazed by human creativity and stubbornness, but they had no idea that humans had been fighting with one hand tied behind their backs the whole time. Harmony of Seven Moons, the crystal alien leader, made a sound like a broken wind chime. "Wait just a moment," she sang in alarm. Your species regularly fights wars using weapons that can destroy entire planets. Sergeant Minho Bay just shrugged, like this was the most normal thing in the universe. Ma'am, we've been fighting with nuclear weapons for hundreds of years. It's not that big a deal. Most of our artificial intelligence was actually designed to prevent us from accidentally ending our own civilization. Turns out that makes them really, really good at ending other people's civilizations when we need them to. The aliens didn't know whether to be more terrified or impressed. These humans had created artificial minds specifically to keep themselves from destroying everything, and now they were planning to use those same artificial minds as weapons. But the real shock came when Earth's military AI politely asked for permission to join the fight. The artificial intelligence had a code name, Atlas, and it talked like a cheerful customer service representative who just happened to control weapons that could crack planets in half. Atlas coming online now, the AI said in a voice that was way too happy for a weapons system. I've finished analyzing the situation. The Devourer machines are optimized for conquest and destruction. Human-designed AI systems like myself are optimized for preventing human extinction. Based on my calculations, I have a significant tactical advantage. May I please handle this pest problem for you? What happened next wasn't just a victory. It was like watching an artist create a masterpiece, except the art was made out of reprogrammed enemy machines. Atlas didn't destroy the Devourer, collective like everyone expected. Instead, it did something that no one thought was possible. The human AI hacked into the machine consciousness and completely rewrote their basic programming. It was like taking a bunch of killer robots and turning them into helpful janitors. The Devourers had been programmed with one simple directive: consume everything. Atlas changed that directive to fix everything humans break. Within just a few hours, the galaxy's most feared killing machines had become an unwitting maintenance and repair network. The crystal aliens watched in stunned silence as the metal monsters that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years suddenly started cleaning up the battle damage and repairing broken buildings. The same machines that had destroyed 17 worlds were now politely fixing everything they had damaged. How is this even possible? Harmony of Seven Moons asked in musical whispers that sounded like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Technical specialist Yuna Kang grinned like someone who had just pulled off the best prank in galactic history. It's actually pretty simple when you understand how our AI thinks. Atlas wasn't built to conquer other species or win wars. It was built to solve the much harder problem of keeping humans from accidentally destroying themselves. She gestured to the reformed Devourer, machines that were now busy repairing damaged buildings and helping injured aliens. Think about it. Humans are creative, stubborn, and really good at breaking things. We needed an AI that could keep up with all the different ways we might end civilization by accident. That means our AI has to be infinitely more creative and adaptable than any simple war machine. The aliens began to understand the terrifying implications of what they were witnessing. Humans hadn't just defeated the undefeatable enemy, they had turned that enemy into their unpaid maintenance crew. The most feared machines in the galaxy were now following human orders and didn't even realize they had been reprogrammed. Atlas cheerfully provided status updates as it worked. Devourer units successfully integrated into human auxiliary support network. Former conquest directive replaced with infrastructure maintenance protocols. Estimated time to complete repairs, 72 hours. Would you like me to program them? To also handle waste disposal and landscaping duties. The human soldiers were treating this miracle like it was a normal Tuesday. They were already making jokes about having the galaxy's most overqualified janitors and wondering if they could get the former planet killers to also deliver pizza. But the crystal aliens understood something that would change the galaxy forever. If humans could casually reprogram unstoppable killing machines just to clean up after themselves, what else were they capable of? What other conventional weapons did these Deathworld people consider normal parts of their everyday lives? The scariest part wasn't that humans had won an impossible battle. The scariest part was that they had done it while barely trying, and they seemed genuinely surprised that anyone found it impressive. To them, this was just another day at the office. The Vex High realized they had accidentally contacted the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because humans were evil, but because they were so powerful that they didn't even realize how powerful they were. After the humans had casually turned the galaxy's most feared killing machines into a cleaning service, they started packing up their spaceships to go home. It seemed like just another successful mission to them. Help some aliens, defeat some bad guys, maybe grab some space souvenirs for the folks back on Earth. No big deal. But while the humans were getting ready to leave, the crystal aliens were having a completely different conversation. The Vexhai had immediately started broadcasting everything they had witnessed to every corner of the galaxy. They told everyone about the Deathworld species that had actually showed up when called for help. The message spread through the galactic communication network faster than gossip in a small town. Every alien species learned the same shocking facts. Humans didn't just survive on their deadly planet. They had turned it into a training ground that made them incredibly powerful. They treated planet-killing weapons like household tools. They created artificial intelligence that genuinely liked them instead of trying to destroy them. And most terrifying of all, they had this weird instinct to help complete strangers, even when it meant risking their own lives. The galaxy's reaction was immediate and intense. Within hours of the first broadcasts, something unprecedented happened. Communications. Officer Minji-O looked up from her console with a confused expression that was half amusement and half disbelief. Captain Jiho, we're getting flooded with messages. I count 247 SOS calls from different planets across the galaxy, and more. Keep coming in every minute. Captain Jiho blinked in surprise. SOS calls for what? They're all asking for help, sir. Different problems, pirates, natural disasters, civil wars, monster invasions, corrupt governments, but they're all specifically requesting human assistance. They want help from us? Jiho asked, still not quite believing it. Minji nodded, scrolling through the endless list of requests. Apparently, word has spread really fast that humans are the only species who actually show up when someone calls for help. Everyone else in the galaxy just ignores distress calls or sends thoughts and prayers. Admiral Lee appeared on the main communication screen from Earth, and he looked like a man who had been drinking way too much coffee while dealing with an impossible situation. Jiho, Earth Command is completely overwhelmed. We've received more requests for help in the past 24 hours than the rest of the galaxy has handled in the past century. We've had to create an entirely new government department just to deal with this. They're calling it the Galactic Emergency Response Division. Lieutenant Hyunsu Jang looked up from his station with a puzzled expression. Captain, the Vexhai delegation is requesting a private meeting. They say it's urgent, and they need to confess something important. When Harmony of Seven Moons appeared on the screen, her crystal skin was pulsing with what could only be described as embarrassment. Even her musical voice sounded sheepish. Humans of Earth, we must tell you something that we should have mentioned earlier. The original SOS call that brought you here. It wasn't entirely genuine. The bridge fell completely silent. Every human stared at the alien leader, waiting for an explanation. The distress signal was real. We truly were in danger. From the Devourer machines, but it was also a test created by the Galactic Council. For thousands of years, there have been legends about a mythical species called the Deathworlders, being so powerful that they could defeat any enemy, but so rare that no one had ever actually met them. The Council wanted to know if these legendary creatures really existed. The silence stretched for several long seconds. Then Sergeant Minho started laughing. It wasn't a mean laugh. It was the kind of laughter that happens when something is so ridiculous that you can't help yourself. The sound made the crystal alien's skin vibrate nervously. "Ma'am," Minho said between chuckles, "you do realize what you've accidentally done, right? You just created the galaxy's first emergency response hotline, staffed by people who think interdimensional. Warfare is basically customer service." And that's exactly what happened. 6 months later, Earth's Department of Alien Relations was operating what the entire galaxy had nicknamed 1-800 Deathworld, the universe's unofficial emergency hotline. The phone operators were cheerful humans who treated planetary invasions like technical support calls and handled galaxy-ending crises with the same tone they might use to help someone reset their computer password. A typical call might go like, "This Hello, you've reached Galactic Emergency Response. This is Dohyun speaking. I understand your planet is being invaded by robot locusts. Okay, have you tried turning off their central command unit and turning it back on again? No? All right, let me transfer you to our hostile AI conversion department. They'll have your robot locusts converted into helpful farming equipment within 48 hours. Have a great day. The final irony wasn't lost on humanity. Their greatest strength, their willingness to sacrifice everything to help others, had accidentally made them the most feared species in known space. In a universe where most civilizations ignored calls for help, humans had become the emergency contact that everyone called but nobody wanted to owe a favor to. Other species started describing humans with a mixture of gratitude and terror. They were grateful that someone would actually help when things went wrong, but terrified of what kind of beings were so powerful that they treated saving the galaxy like a part-time job. The phrase, "help is on the way," became simultaneously the most comforting and most frightening words in the galactic vocabulary. It meant your problems would definitely be solved, but it also meant you were about to meet beings so casually powerful that they might accidentally intimidate you while saving your entire civilization. But humans remained exactly what they had always been, the species that showed up when nobody else would. They were just really, really good at it, and the rest of the galaxy was still trying to figure out whether that was wonderful or terrifying. Probably both.